Morning guys, welcome to Rod Building for Beginners Part 3. Today we're going to do layout of the position of your guides and show you how to install your tip top, so stick around. In Part 3 we're going to show you how to locate your guides on your blank and why action and power matters with the location of your guides. Mudhole has a chart similar to this that gives you layout measurements based on from the tip back towards the butt. I do static testing on a new blank if I've never built on it before, but since I'm very familiar with this blank, we're going to do a few things to save some time. We have an example. So we're going to take your 7.3 and this Dobyns 7.3, which is the same power, the same action, and we're going to do a guide layout based on it. We have the tip top down here. Let's slide everything down, Nathan. Okay. We have a tip top. We're going to mark the actual ring location with a pencil on this white guide on the blank.
Like directly on the tip?
Yeah, I'm marking it right where the ring of the guide is going to be. Here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So now you have it laid out to where we're going to put your guides on your blank. So let me put this over here. Now we've got everything marked. Let's slide everything, let's slide the whole assembly down here a little bit. Okay. And what I want to do, because these pencil marks are going to wipe off very easily, I'm just going to throw this narrow tape. Just going to, and what you do is you just ahead of the mark, so you can still see the mark. Spin it. Go to your next one. Spin it. Still see the mark. Okay. Next one. Until we get all these marked. This is why you put the masking tape on it.
Where you can see it.
So well, for me, it's my old eyes can actually see it. Okay.
I can't.
Now we got them all marked. Let's open up your casting guide kit, black frame from CRB. And then I have this handy dandy little tray that I bought at, probably bought at Harbor Freight, that will keep up with these little pieces so you don't lose them. So we're gonna pour all these right in there. Bingo. Set this back down out of the way. Let's lay the guides out. So what you do is your largest guide is your stripper guide. That's gonna go here. Okay. And then you have a transition guide, which is quite a bit bigger than the others. Okay, you see that?
Yep.
All right, so that's there. And then lay the rest of these out and make sure you have the right amount of guides. So go ahead and pull them out of there and lay them out. Just stand in the way I stood them up.
Okay. Now these are no size difference.
They should all be the same, and if you stand them up like that, it'll be obvious to you when you look at them if you've got them laid out properly.
Looks like I have one more extra.
Yeah, you may have. Okay, you do have one extra guide. Since we're gonna do your rod as a spiral wrap, that's not that important. And since I think that people put way too many guides on a rod to begin with, more guides is not necessarily a good thing. It depends on how the rod bends. So when we do a spiral wrap with your guides, it won't matter. You ready?
Yep.
All right, next. So let's get her back up. Let's whoop first thing. Pick up your little pieces and put them back where you won't lose them. Okay, we got all the pieces back in the magnetic holder. I throw these up here. So now you're set up to start wrapping guides. We have guides. In the last part, we showed you how to lay your guides out. Now on some of the guides, the tip that you're gonna have to put the thread on is pretty clunky. So here's how I fix that. I take a pair of cheap needle nose pliers and I'm gonna put some tape over the serrations on the pliers because I don't want to scratch my guide. Okay, I get that one side done. I get this side done. Now what that does is it allows you to hold these guides and hold them by the insert and not scratch it. You see? Hold it carefully. Now what's going to happen is some of these guide feet, and that's what this little part right here is the guide foot. Some of the guides have a taper on them. Now this one's got a pretty good taper, so I wouldn't worry about it too much, but I'll show you what you're going to need to do with some of your guides. So what you do is you take a nail file, steal one from Chaz, just don't get caught doing it, okay? You're holding the guide by the frame and the insert, and you're just going to sharpen basically the foot, so when we go to bring the thread around the blank and up on the guide,
be a smooth
it's got a little bit of ramp. That's exactly what it is, and you don't really need to file them much. These are pretty well done out of the packaging. So what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll prep all these.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and we'll start a layout.
Alrighty.
Okay? All right, so let's start the prep. Not so much on the bottom, but the top is more you want the ramp, but you just don't want you don't want to leave that burr on there either. All right, you got that one done? Yep, okay. And then flip over and get your other side.
Gotta be.
Righty,
Righty,
tighty, lefty, loosey. Almost works in this case. All right, you got it?
Yep.
Looks like, okay. So now you got your stripper guide filed down. Now it's time to play with these rubber bands. I told you a couple videos ago what we're gonna do with them. And here's what they're for. They're for keeping the tension on the rod so it doesn't wanna jump out. It'll still turn, but it doesn't jump out of your bracket. Yeah, pretty nifty, eh?
Yeah. Or I'm pretty sure a hair tie would work.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are hair ties that might have bought from somewhere else. So anyway, so right now we can turn it and it keeps a little tension on it so it doesn't fall out, it doesn't rock over too bad, okay?
Okay.
Now you have this ready to go, you got it sharpened. This is the first location. This is gonna be dead center of your reel sitting here, right? So you wanna make sure this is absolutely on the top.
Which that looks to be about correct.
Now I would come back this way just a hair. Okay. We know you're going to be your first location. So we're going to peel this tape off for the moment. Okay. Now we'll go back to the top. And here's where this narrow tape comes in handy. And take your guide. You're going to put it on the top. And you're going to tape it down in place. Okay.
You're taping one side down.
You're taping one side down, and we're gonna wrap thread on the other half to get it started.
Okay.
Okay. One thing we're gonna do though is, I'm a creature of habit. I build my handles this way, but then I flip it around because of the way my wrappers are, and the butt of the rod is going to be that way. And since you're going to eventually transition to building on a power wrapper, let's do that. So we're going to flip our system around here, and we'll be right back. Now that we're all flipped around where it's normal for me, and it will be normal for you eventually, and I had to go find my cheaters because we're going to start doing stuff that old eyes can't see. Maybe you can see it, but I can't see it. And I'll zoom in for you guys so you can see it. Okay, let's get the thread carriage over here.
All right, let's get it
There
set
we go.
up.
It's gonna be pretty close. We're gonna need to slide everything away from us just a hair.
Okay, let's get us over here.
Okay. We have our handy dandy
Razor blade.
razor blade. I told you guys that we were absolutely gonna need these razor blades, and you are here shortly. All right, so you're getting, here's the razor knife.
I'm getting the threads together.
You're gonna pick out the colors that we're gonna build this first rod for Nathan.
And 1 or 2 colors on the
Let's
threads.
start with one color to start with. So what's your primary color gonna be?
I think I'm gonna put on gold.
Okay, we'll grab the gold. Don't cut yourself.
I use scissors.
Okay. You're allowed to use scissors?
I'm allowed to use scissors.
Okay, perfect. Okay, now we're in the gold. Let's find the end of it, which is right there. Cheater time. Must see what I'm doing. All right, so there's the end of the thread. Okay, so we're gonna put it on your carriage here. So we got a bunch of pieces. So you have the nut. You got a small washer and a spacer. You got a large washer, and then you got the bobbin guide. So we're gonna slide this on here, back the way it came. Large washer, spacer, small washer, and a nut. Let's get this puppy threaded through here. So we're going through this bottom eye, that eye. Coming through the fishy pole thingy, which is going to hold constant tension on your thread for you. And then tighten this, loosen this up a little bit so we can get, there we go. Now it's turning. Perfect, okay. So now we have all this extra. Now here's how we're gonna start the wrap. Okay, we got it laid out. You're going to big tape. You're gonna need a couple pieces of it. So we'll do a piece here. Piece here. Okay. You caught up so far, right?
Yes.
So we've got all this put together. We're gonna go with gold thread on the first guide, on your stripper guide. We've got the guide lined up to be, and it doesn't have to be perfect because once we get the wrap on it, we can adjust it underneath the threads before we put the final, it will slide underneath. I'll show you in a little bit, okay? All right, so let's get ready to do that. Time for Nathan's, well, your first wrap, but I'm gonna do the first one for him to show him how, and then he's gonna do the rest. So here we go. So we're gonna pin this thread down to the blank so it won't move. Gonna pin the end down, okay? Now this is where you have to have everything pretty much balanced because you are gonna be responsible for spinning. Oh, that was another thing. We'll get to that in a minute. Actually, you know what? Let's go back to that. Time out. We almost forgot something. This is...
Got a loop in it.
I don't care about the loop. Just give it to me. Some 40-pound braid I had in the shop. You're going to need a thread pull. So I'm going to show you how to build a thread pull. You just tie a loop. A little overhand knot in the end. If your fingers work properly, this would be easier. And you're gonna want about 3 to 4 inch loop. Okay, now let's take the scissors and cut that loose.
Cut it right here?
Yeah, just anywhere right there is good. All right, we are gonna need this in a moment. All right, so let's get ready to go. Now you have your thread pull, that's what this is called here.
Okay.
Your rod is balanced where it's gonna move not too much. Okay. You've got your
tape holding your
tape holding your thread down, right? Your guide is still lined up. Okay, we got to get in here still. This is gonna hold your location. So we're backing up the thread to get the tension right. We need a little bit more tension than that. There we go. All right, you ready to wrap? We're ready. We are ready to wrap your first stripper guide.
Okay.
Not your first stripper, your first stripper guide. So, okay, here we go. You ready? So you're taking your left hand and you're turning the blank, and you're guiding the thread, and you want to get it to cross over the top of that foot where your tape is, and then come across the top of the other foot. And what you've done is you have trapped that foot down on the blank. Okay, you see that?
Yep.
Now we're going to keep turning. We're going to turn out a little further, and you want to go past the tip of that guide foot right there. Okay.
Okay.
And then you're going to cross over to pin that thread to the blank too. And now we're going to pull it back. Okay. And then what you're doing is just continuing. And this is where I put my cheaters on so I can see what I'm doing. Make sure it doesn't cross over again. And it's starting to get, you want to get it up on the top of the foot. And it just jumped off. So all right, we'll get it up on this one. Starting to climb the ramp that you filed in with the fingernail file that you stole from Chaz. You see it coming up the foot?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a good point to stop and just make sure, but you gotta, your tension is being held through the spring and the little fishy pole thingy. Okay. Let's break out your wrapping tools. You got a bag of tools over there. Let's open those up. So you've got
Thread tool combo.
the thread tool combo. So let's get those opened up. So you have a couple things. So
Scissors.
Yep, you got little clippers. This is called a burnishing tool. You're gonna need that in just a minute.
And your pick.
And a thread pick for moving threads around very precisely, okay? Well, don't think we're gonna need that on this one, but we might. So we're going back to the cheater so I can see what I'm doing. You're gonna take the burnishing tool. It's got a flat side with corners on it. It's got a round side. Right now we're using a flat side. We're just gonna straighten these up and tighten and turn as we go. And the tension is being held here, and it's continuing to wrap up the guide foot. Make sure it's gonna stay up on the foot there. And you don't want it to cross over. Okay. See how it's climbing up now?
Yes, but with that guide, I've noticed it is not level with the rod seat.
Well,
Would that be a problem?
Well, no, we're going to be able to adjust it in a minute. So
Okay.
the next thing you're going to want to do is you take the tape off that you started with, because now you have this thread here trapped underneath all these. You take your razor blade and you're going to lay it on there, and you're going to pull the tag into it. You're not actually cutting, you're pulling a thread across, because you don't want to risk cutting your other guide threads, okay? So let's keep going. And just jumped, so that's where you got to be careful. Okay, we're going to stop here about 5 or 6 turns from where you're going to stop your wrap. And then we're going to use the thread pull. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Going to the back of the blank, opposite the guide. You're going to take your thread pull, if you can pick it up, and not on the side away from the guide. Okay? That'll be important in a minute. And you're gonna pull it right up in here where it's pinned. Okay, and you're just gonna keep wrapping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so now take your index finger of your left hand and on that last thread, hold it, okay?
Okay.
Get your little scissor things out here. Okay, so you're gonna need a couple inches to play with here, so we're just gonna clip the thread.
Okay.
We're gonna open up the loop on your thread pull. You're gonna stick your thread through it, and now you have the tension. You gotta keep tension on this line on that wrap, and then you take your other hand and you're gonna pull it back underneath those last 10 wraps. You're gonna pull a little tension with it. Take your razor blade, and again, you're not cutting. You're just gonna lay it on
And pull it back to
and pull, and now you have a wrap. Burnishing tool. So we're gonna go back through here and we're gonna take all those gaps out. And we're gonna take the smooth side and just gonna rub it down, and you see how the lines disappear and it's just one shiny gold thing now. It looks like shiny tape instead of a bunch of threads. You see how that does it?
Yeah.
Now, we got one other little issue we're gonna have to deal with, and that is this little tag in here is sticking out. Now, when we go to put the epoxy on it, it's gonna leave a little bit of a burr in the first coat of the epoxy.
Okay.
But if you have your handy dandy little lighter and you're careful, it's just like burning a thread off a sweater.
Perfect.
There you go. That's wrap number 1. And you got a bunch to do, so we're gonna get some of these done while you guys are taking a little bit of a break, and we'll come back and show you how to put the tip on. Stick around.
So, since I watched you wrap that, I watched you start from the tip of the rod side, go down to the butt of the rod, and you wrapped the back side, which is faced closer to the butt of the rod.
Yes.
So now, when you do the front side of this, do you start from the butt of the rod and work your way to
Absolutely.
the tip?
So what you're gonna do every time you put a wrap in is you're gonna start pinning your thread on the opposite side of the foot that you're working on. And with all these single foot guides, they're all gonna be, you're just gonna have one wrap. But on a double foot guide like this one is, you pin your beginning of your thread opposite side of the foot you wanna wrap.
Okay.
Okay, so you're exactly correct. So when we start this wrap, we're gonna pin it here and start the wrap over here and come back, and everything is just away from the guide. That's when I was telling you, when we get over here, like when we did this thread pull on this side, I told you not away from the guide, right?
Yep.
Now when we get over here,
We're gonna flip.
you flip everything, because if you don't, you won't be able to pull it, because you're gonna be trying to pull your knot underneath the other threads. You're gonna make that mistake a bunch of times, because you're gonna get the wrap in here and you're just gonna stick it in. You're not gonna be paying attention, and I know you're gonna make that mistake a bunch of times, because I made it a bunch of times. And sometimes I still make it. Drives me nuts, but it's one of those things. So, all right, so let's look at tip placement next. Because you can go through here, guide, okay?
Okay.
So let's slide everything down again, and we'll look at how to install your tip top next. Now what's gonna happen is we're most likely gonna take this rod and just put it on my power wrapper, just so it holds it steady for Nathan. He's still gonna wrap them by hand, but we were just talking that it is very tedious work. I mean, it really is. It's the difference between a really high crafted rod and a piece of crap rod put together is a lot to do with your thread work. We can do accents in it. We can do all kinds of cool things like, we've seen, once we get the thread in, when we're doing the epoxy, you can do some sparkles, it's just, this is where the creativity side. The next thing we're going to talk about though is your tip top, which is here. Now, a standard wrap with all of the guides on the top of the blank, on the top of the reel seat side. You just line everything up straight. In that case, it would be on the top like that. Perfectly aligned from your reel seat. All of the guides will be straight. Like you're right, this one was off a little bit, but it's really easy to adjust. Just slide it underneath it like that. But since you're gonna have a right hand spiral wrap, because you're a right-handed reel, which is gonna be, your transition guide is gonna go 90 degrees. It's gonna actually sit over here and start bringing the thread underneath. Your tip top is gonna be lined up perfectly on the trigger. Now, here's how you do that. Where's your glue? There. This is your tip glue. And you have your alignment, what you're gonna wanna do. Let's move this down a little bit, maybe a little more weight. We're gonna heat it, and you don't wanna stick it in the flame, and you don't wanna try to melt it as soon as you light it, because it'll get the black soot. So you fire it up, and just above the flame. You can do this with the alcohol burner too, but the lighter works better. So you've got it softened. You're just gonna dab it on here, and get a little bit piled up there, and it's going to start getting sticky. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to heat it back up. We've got it smeared all the way around. We're going to heat it back up, and then we're going to stick it on. Okay, now slide it right on there. Today, push it on there and pull it back off. All right, we're going to heat it and we're going to do it again. What you did is you just put a bunch of glue inside there. Now go ahead and do it again. I'm going to need to heat that just a little bit. All right, slide it on there again. All right, now get it aligned. Now we can still adjust this later, but you want to get it aligned pretty close. Okay,
pretty close.
Now just as it's starting to cool, or it's not sticking to your finger, take your fingernail and you just rip that extra glue right off. But it's got to be at that point where it's still warm, but it's not stringy anymore. Because if you let it get hard, then you got to start, it's a pain to get off. So now you have guide number 1, and you have tip top. You almost have a completed rod, except for an awful lot of tedious wrapping to be done. It would take me about 30 minutes to finish this rod as far as the wrap goes. It's going to take you a couple hours. But this is the first time you've ever done one.
First time.
And it'll be yours. That's the coolest thing, is the first fish you catch on the rod that you built yourself is the coolest fish you'll always remember. What you've just seen is the basics. You got a guide wrapped. He's got a bunch more to do. We've got a tip top on, glued on in a proper spot. The last episode you saw us do the handle and the reel seat. Next time we're gonna do epoxy over your threads, and maybe do some creative stuff on the handle. Cool?
Sounds like fun.
Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you next time.